A student finishes days of work in hours. A founder builds a strategy overnight. A researcher solves a massive problem after literally weeks of failure.
But here is the thing. None of them worked alone.
They were working with Claude AI.
What you just heard isn't some sci-fi movie pitch. It is the absolute new baseline for knowledge work today, completely mapped out in Charlie Choi's groundbreaking book, Mastering Claude AI. We are stepping way beyond the surface-level hype to understand exactly how this tool fundamentally rewrites our creative potential.
Part 1. Built differently. The origin of Claude.
So the single biggest mistake that new users make is assuming all these AI models are exactly the same. I promised you, they aren't. Claude was created by Anthropic, an AI safety company actually founded by former OpenAI researchers. And here's why that matters. This tool was explicitly built for writers, for thinkers, and professionals, not just coders. To truly leverage Claude, you've got to understand this completely unique foundation.
Listen closely to this excerpt from the book. Claude was developed with a core commitment to being helpful, harmless, and honest simultaneously, through a training approach Anthropic calls constitutional AI. Think about that for a second. Instead of just relying on simple human feedback, Claude is guided by explicit, built-in principles. It is literally trained to acknowledge its own uncertainty, and most importantly, it's trained to preserve your unique intent.
You can see the stark difference in behavior right here. Standard chatbots usually operate on simple reward signals, which means they'll often aggressively override your authorial voice just to spit out a fast generic answer. But Claude, because it's driven by constitutional AI, preserves the nuance. It kind of begs the question, doesn't it? What else has traditional AI been holding you back from, just because it couldn't understand your unique voice?
Part 2. The prediction engine. Long context intelligence.
But Claude becomes even more powerful when you realize what is actually happening under the hood. It is a prediction engine. It is not a search engine. Choi lays out this really deep yet totally accessible reality. He writes, it is generating new text by predicting what should come next, based on everything it learned during training. When you type to Claude, it isn't just retrieving pre-written answers from some giant database. It is actively generating a custom response, word by word, reasoning through the exact context you provide. And here is where the scale gets absolutely staggering. 200,000. That is Claude 3's token context window. Now, think of a token as a fragment of a word. In a single working session, Claude can hold roughly an entire novel or a massive research corpus perfectly in its memory. Context directly drives output quality, and Claude has a nearly limitless capacity for context. So I want you to really think about this for a moment. What actually happens when an AI can hold your entire professional corpus, every single note and dataset you have in a single thought? Part 3. Stop searching. The creative brief. This brings us to how we actually communicate with this massive intelligence. Look, most people use prompts entirely wrong. They treat them like a quick Google search. Choi argues we need a complete paradigm shift. The secret to high-level co-creation is right here. Skilled users treat every prompt as a creative brief, specifying role, context, tone, format, length, audience, and constraints. I mean, you wouldn't hand a human assistant a vague 5-word sentence and expect a masterpiece, right? You have to direct the AI. The crucial point is comparing these two specific workflows. A search query is brief, and you are basically starting from scratch every time it fails. But a creative brief? That is about genre-specific optimization and iterative improvement. You advance the prompt based on what Claude gives you back. That iterative, back-and-forth conversation is where the massive real-world productivity boosts actually live. Part 4. The collaborative proof. And this leads us to what is easily the most credible part of this entire story. Charlie Choi didn't just sit around theorizing about AI collaboration. He lived it. He shares his lived experience completing this entire book with Claude. He executed a flawless workflow, selecting the topic, structuring the table of contents, drafting each chapter in active dialogue with the AI, all the way through proofreading and revision. The guide you are learning from right now is the literal proof of concept. Let this sink in for a second. AI is the drafting partner, not the author. The human brings the ideas, the judgment, the intent, the creative vision. This right here is the philosophical anchor of the work. AI is here to amplify your creative vision, not replace it. It handles the heavy lifting of drafting so you can focus entirely on the actual thinking. Part 5. Scaling business intelligence.
Now, this collaborative power builds into an enterprise-level advantage that goes way, way beyond simple writing tasks. Just look at these surprising capabilities from the book's appendix. We are talking about real email workflow automation with Gmail log analysis, creating beautiful visual data charts without needing to know a single line of code, or turning plain English into complex SQL database queries overnight. It literally transforms complex technical hurdles into everyday tasks.
Troy calls this a blueprint for Claude's role in the global business environment, a fundamental shift in how knowledge work is done. This isn't just a fun productivity add-on, it is a completely new layer of business intelligence. AI agents are revolutionizing global knowledge work right before our eyes.
Part 6. The Insight Hiding in Plain Sight. As we reach our climax, we uncover the deepest, most profound lesson embedded in the very existence of this guide. It is an insight hiding right in plain sight. When Claude handles the blank page, the author's real job begins. Quality control, judgment, vision. The things AI cannot do. This directly challenges that constant anxiety that using AI means surrendering your authorship. The reality is the exact opposite. When the blank page disappears, your role as a human editor, director, and curator vastly expands and intensifies.
So, what does it actually mean to be an author, a creator, or a thinker when AI handles the generation?